Good morning, everybody out there. It's Friday, May 26th. Welcome to another episode of Jackman Radio. I'm your host, Eric Jackman, and I am psyched to be joined with this guy today. I met him for the first time around the holidays of last year. We were on a bill together doing comedy at the Ruby Room, Shaskeen, up in Manchester, New Hampshire, with the great Geneva Gonzalez. He's Mr. Sam Buck. He's a emerging comedian. He's, in my opinion, one of the best in the game right now. Sam, thanks so much for coming on, man, and joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, dude. So before we were rolling, I was just telling you, man, I'm just seeing you everywhere. I follow you on Instagram and Facebook, and you're I can just tell, man, you're really driven and you're always at it and you're always doing something and you're mixing it up with people. You're doing stuff at Harvard. You're playing all over the place. You're meeting really interesting people. So I guess before we get into all that, for my audience and some people who maybe haven't heard of you or know about you, talk a little bit about yourself and your background and how you got going in comedy.
Yeah, so I'm a comedian and podcaster. I My origin story in comedy is really funny. I used a fake ID that my mom bought me to fly to LA and to get up at the Comedy Store when I was 17 years old, and that was the first time I ever did comedy. And it
Wow.
was a dream before then, but that was the moment where I got like the bug, like that bug of doing comedy. And it took me a little while, like within school, but when I got out of school, I just went head first. And I don't know, following something passionately is way better than being sad all the time. You know what I mean? So
I'm
I
with
just
you.
like kept doing it, and that was a dream. And then when the pandemic hit and I couldn't do comedy anymore, I started the podcast just to talk about what I was doing with my free time, talk about self-help. And I always loved rappers, so I started talking to rappers about self-help, which no one ever really did. And that's how the
Wow.
podcast kind of took off. And it's one of those things, like looking back now, I'm like, damn, I made some good decisions. But in the moment, I was just like, keep my head down, keep moving. You know what I mean? Like, even the going out to LA in the moment was dumb as hell. But looking back, I'm like, damn, that's pretty cool that I got to use a fake ID at the Comedy Store.
Badass. And your mom sanctioned that?
Yeah, my mom bought, I was like, I want to go perform at the Comedy Store, but it's 21 plus. Like, do you think you could call and maybe you fly out with me and like you walk me in?
Could you write me a note,
And
mom?
literally, like we were watching Jurassic Park in sixth grade. And she was like, well, do you know anyone that can make a fake ID? And I met someone, and they made me the shittiest fake ID I've ever seen, but it got me into the Comedy Store.
Yeah, it's like the original McLovin fake ID.
Bro, I looked so bad. I had no beard. I was a
Yeah.
baby face. And you know who Tom Arnold is?
Oh yeah.
So Tom Arnold's in the back of the room,
Oh wow.
and I'm about to get off stage, and he goes, "This guy's not 21." Like loud of the belly room.
He had your number, literally.
He was a snitch, yeah.
Yeah, well, from what I remember from your act, your mom sounds like a real badass. Like, I know
Yeah.
you were telling. I think one of your bits was about either how she was going to Monster Jam or she took you as a young kid.
Oh, she would take me to like every rap concert, like the bigger, like my dad would take me to like
Kenny
the Wu
Loggins.
Tang. No,
Oh,
my dad would take me like Wu Tang Clan, like the
okay.
grimy rap, and then my mom would take me to like Lil Wayne and Ti, like the pop rap.
Bring them out.
Uh,
Bring them out.
literally, my mom yelling the lyrics, cheering, like they were.
Oh man.
People are always like, "Why are you in rap music? Like, why are you hanging with all these rappers? Why do you like?" And it's like I literally grew up with it. Like I don't know any other way to describe it. Is that's all I listened to as a child, you know?
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I see a lot of your playlists that you put out, and it's obvious you're very passionate about music, and it had an early impact, like on your formative years and your childhood. Yeah, my first concert ever was the Moody Blues. My dad took me,
That's a
my
good one.
my brother and I. Oh yeah, it is so informed who I am as a person, my worldview, how I feel spiritually about things, about the earth, about nature, about other humans. Um, so when you click with something that young at such a young age, it's undeniable the impact it has on you.
I always talk about this with like friends and stuff about like when you grow up, you kind of want to find your own voice. But your own voice is really just the shit that brought you comfort as a child. Like you don't really find your own voice. You just like rediscover what brought you peace, you know?
Right. Oh, it's so true. Yeah, and it's undeniable, the influence your parents' tastes have on you as a kid because it's what's around. My dad had a cassette tape of the Moody Blues album from 1983 called "The Present," and we used to have a Aerostar minivan because we were a family of. I have a brother and a sister, and then it was my mom and dad, so there's five of us. And my dad would just play that thing on repeat, and then he had a vinyl copy of it, and I was fascinated by the art. Like I remember the artwork of it, and I remember driving around certain parts of Massachusetts where I grew up originally near Ashland and Framingham, Metro West. So like I have a emotional and a mental connection to that album, and
Yeah.
it brings me back to places when I was a child to like going out with my dad and going skating, going put him teaching me how to skate and playing out in the pond and music is just so important, man, to our life and to everything
Shit.
we do.
My first concert was the Allman Brothers. My dad took me when I was like
Oh
a
man,
baby, and that's
wow.
probably why I'm a stoner.
Hell yeah, man.
I probably smelled it in my 3-year-old brain. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
you're just
one
like, I
day this
love
is
this.
gonna bring me comfort. Yeah.
This is gonna be me. Yeah, but it's crazy, and I think too the thrill of it going to see someone who your first experience of that person is their music, and then the artwork from their music, and you just view them as this larger than life figure, this like huge icon, and then you go and see them, and it just the crowd and the energy was something I became addicted to, and I knew that I liked being around that and I liked being in front of it. And then as I grew up and progressed, I felt like, well, I could be the thing that people come to see or that entertains people,
Yeah.
large groups of people. So would you say like your early exposure to music kind of made you feel more comfortable in that environment and kind of helped form you into becoming someone who performs for other people?
I think that's definitely a big part of it. I also think I am an only child that comes from a divorce that probably was worse than a lot of other divorces, like from friends I know. So I just want attention. Like I
Hmm.
think that's like a big part of it is when you feel like people aren't listening to you as a kid
Yeah.
and then you see comedy or music. I never like wanted to be a musician. That was never like my thing. But when I saw comedy, like I remember my parents took me to see Jim Gaffigan on my 10th birthday. And I remember just being like, wow, people are listening to what he has to say and like actually listening. And I think that was really informative to me in my younger years.
Yeah, having one of those figures or someone in that world doing it so well and getting that response from the crowd and being it's like conducting an orchestra when you're on
Yeah.
stage. And it's a cool feeling. And
Yeah, but I think that's what I like more about like the podcast is like comedy. I kind of understand the mindset, but with music, I don't. I'm not a musician, so I don't get that. So I like every time I meet a huge artist, I'm like, oh shit, they're just like a crazy person like me. They don't have it
yeah.
all figured out. Like I was. This is a weird tangent on it, but I interviewed the former CFO of Capital One Bank, who also like created the codes that protect our nuclear weapons, and he
Wow.
also is a rap producer.
Wow.
And I also did hella mushrooms with him. And when with all of that information, I'm like, there's no grand scheme of people controlling the government. I'm like, this is the fourth in charge of the fourth biggest bank in the world, and he's doing like drugs with me. Like, there's people are just people doing their thing, and they get to this point where they take their head up, and they're like, what? Where the fuck am I? And then they just put their head down and keep working. Like, when I
Wow.
did that, I was like, I was tripping. I was like, the Illuminati's not real. Like I'm with the guy who would be in the Illuminati right now. Like
This guy would be, yeah, he would be one of the, the doormen or the ushers. He'd be with them. Um, yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, really, and you're probably finding this, and I find this too because I've rubbed shoulders with like powerful and wealthy people in politics and the entertainment world. Power is just perception. That's all it is.
same
It's,
with wealth.
and
Same with
wealth
wealth.
and projection.
Yes, rappers are known to be like the richest because they have huge chains, they drive fancy cars and have mansions, but it's all a perception.
Yeah,
That's it's a persona. That's what some people need to enjoy their artist, but a lot of people put all that into that and then don't have a savings or don't have a 401k and they want that and they want to grow to that, but that takes a whole little other level of discipline than to just get the money right then.
yeah. It's the dude who's just kind of wearing like a tracksuit and is understated. He's the guy who's got all that figured out, not the guy.
Well, oh my, I have a friend who travels with me for the podcast because he enjoys the music too. And I love being able to just bring friends along with me on the journey. And he'll be wealthier than all the people in the room. And yeah, he'll have on a tracksuit and people will be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what are you like? Why are you here? And he'll be like, oh, I'm Sam's security guard. Even though he's like,
Yeah,
like he'll just like fucking with people because no one
yeah.
expects it.
Right, and that's that takes a level of evolution. To You have to be evolved and understand some certain things and have some foresight. It's fun to be in the moment and caught up in all of that, but that all fades pretty quickly. You know,
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
pretty fast, and that's fascinating. So you talk to like rappers and people in that world about those kind of things, like retirement
Hmm.
savings and financial wellness and financial literacy and estate planning and stuff.
Yes, I do, and the best way that I can. I I'm a goofy comedian who is for probably 275 of my 280 episodes was stoned out of my mind. Like,
Right.
but yeah, I think that's important, and I think I just had this problem with like people thinking comedians are one certain way. Like they think we're always on, they think we're always funny, and it's like I'm not funny all the time. Comedians are usually not funny off stage, and they want to be funny, so they like force themselves to learn how to humor on stage. And I think that's how I felt about rappers too. Is like these are real people who are dealing with real things and living a real life the same way. Like if like you're making $100,000 off a rap a year, that's like, oh shit, you're own. That's a good job. That's a good job. But you have to treat that money like someone who makes 100K working at Oracle does. You know,
Well,
like
it's not really 100,000 because knock 30% right off the top
oh,
for Uncle
right
Sam.
off the. Oh my god,
Yeah,
that's my yeah,
yeah. So you
exactly.
got that gangster Uncle Sam who always got his hand out. Then you got maybe your crew and your homies, and then you got incidentals and you got travel. What are you left with? 10 grand at the end of the year?
That's what a
So
lot of. I was talking to a rapper about how they wanted to sign him for a $2 million deal. For it was like 5 years, $2 million, which already when you do the math out is like good but not great. But then he couldn't make any money off at the top of that.
mm,
And then like the management takes 10%. And then it's
yeah,
like on that fifth year, you're hurting. You're
well,
hurting. And you
you're
just
paying.
got this large chunk of change in
Yeah,
the beginning that you
right.
can't really do anything with because that's used to fund your album.
Well, you have to approach this shit like Donald Trump. You have to say that's a terrible deal, Sam. Okay, and there's got to be things in place. You got to be look out for numero uno. And I'm sure you probably think about this when someone wants to hire you for like a private gig or a private event or something. So what I do, like, I picture myself on the top of a building looking at like a map. Okay, first of all, where am I going to travel? How much is it going to cost me to get there? My hotel needs to be paid for, my ground transport needs to be paid for, my food and drink needs to be all comped, and then on top of that, my rate for this is 2 grand. So you have to like start right there
Yeah.
to come ahead on it. So that's like how I approach anything in life. Is that kind of an attitude you have with when you're advising these rappers, and then also when you book stuff for yourself?
It's hard. It's hard to find your self worth though. Like when you start, it's hard to find how much money you're supposed to ask for. Like because people who don't do it will get mad. People who it isn't their job, like if comedy and podcasting isn't your job, or music or art, I'd say art in general. If you don't make your living from art, you don't understand how people make their livings from art. You don't understand. You think, oh, what? They want to do it. It's like a favor, but it's like
They'll pay to do it.
exactly. But it's like that's not. This is how I pay my bills. So I can't. I have to be secure in what I'm asking for and my money. And that's a tough thing to find in the beginning.
Yeah, I would think that's the same along all on the spectrum of the entertainment world. Kind of establishing yourself and figuring out a monetary figure, and then what you're willing to walk out that door for, because you do have to maintain integrity, self integrity, and what you expect to get paid
Yeah.
um, as you're going along. Of course, you're not always going to get it, but once you do get like a pretty decent payday to entertain somebody, it's an amazing feeling.
It is, and it is an amazing feeling. But it's a hard one because you think, oh, I made this money, but really, like it's the consistency. It's the tortoise versus the hare. It's like how can I make money over a long period of time, not how can I scam a few people into giving me money.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Consistency and, planning. Um, and also expectation, because you can't expect to get that every single time. Every
Oh
every
no.
every gig or every outing or every project's going to be different. But you always have to advocate for yourself. You got to put your self interests. You got to make sure that they're up at the forefront, because people will railroad you and take advantage of you.
Oh, 100%. And you got to eat a little bit of shit, but that you
Oh
also
yeah,
got to find your self-worth. You got to find what your price is. And you also got to be willing, you got to be ready to step up to the plate.
yeah,
You can't
yeah.
just be like, this is what I want and then suck. Like we
Yeah.
also see, I get in this whole thing where it's like entertainers have this hard ass life, but imagine starting a business knowing
Oh.
what to charge. Imagine knowing like, all right, I have this product, whether it be a computer code or whether it be food or whether it be an actual like tangible item you have. Like to create something like that and to find your worth is probably way harder than telling dick jokes.
Yeah. Well, people always want to be entertained. It's just a matter of like finding your niche, and going for it, and believing in yourself. And I heard this too the other day. With podcasts, sometimes I started my podcast with my brother Mike in 2015, so we've been at it for like 8 years.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, it's I guess you could call it a competitive field. I don't feel like I'm in competition with other people, because I feel like what I have is unique, and I have something cool and unique to offer with my brother. But some people burn out in the podcast game and they say, "Oh, I'm just another podcast. I'm just going to give up. This is too hard. I'm not going to do it." In reality, there's a million podcast. There's literally 1 million podcasts out there, but there's over 330 million people in America. So this guy, I'm not the best at math, but this guy, like, he boiled down the numbers on that and did a derivative of how many ears you want to get into and where you can be
Mhm.
successful. So it might seem like everybody has a podcast and it's a dime a dozen, and what kind of impact or influence am I going to have? Um, but like we talked about before we were rolling, man, if you just show up and you keep
Yeah.
going and you're persistent and you manifest and you have a goal in mind or you have a dream guest in mind, if you don't give up, man, and you just keep going, that can happen for you.
Totally. And that's like I was about I'll use kinder language that I was going to use
You can
is
swear,
like
man.
no,
You could
no, I know. I was
you
just
could be nasty, Sam.
like you think there's like only so many slices of the pie and that's the artist mind fucking with them. Cuz like all right, say I want to be a chef. Like a real chef at a high-end restaurant. I want to be the top chef. I got to go to culinary school. Well, you go to culinary school. Are you the only person who wants to be a chef there? No, literally everyone there is for the same thing. But there's no like proper channel of that like podcasting. So we don't see it the same way. We think we're special when really it's like the grind is what gets you there. You're not just going to wake up and be what you want in any field. And you can't think about the other people around it. Like,
Right.
if you really were like, I want to create anything, think about all the people who already do that, all the people who work for those people, all the people who go to school for that, all the people under that are thinking about it. You have to climb the pyramid no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, it's true, and it, I mean, I'm guilty of it. I'll compare myself to other podcasts or other people in the political kind of podcast commentary world where my brother and I operate, and envy is not something. I'm not an envious person. When I see someone else who I know has hustled and been digging it out and done it on their own and didn't have a studio behind them, didn't have a corporation or anything big behind them, and they have success, I'm really excited for that person. And I'm happy for them because I feel like, well, I can get there too. If that guy did it, and I know his circumstances and I know the disadvantages he had, but I know the guy just worked his ass off and he didn't
Yeah.
give up. And then he either landed this big guest or he got booked on this huge podcast. That is inspiration. And Sam Tripoli talks about abundance. And I love that, man. I love those ethos that there's something for everybody. We can all have success.
Yeah. 100%. When you know what hard work is, you can see it in someone else.
Right.
Like, and if you don't know what hard work is, you're going to hate on other people for their hard work.
That's when people come from are haters or are full of envy or jealousy, and it's kind of it's poison, really.
It really is. What was that? Was it Eleanor Roosevelt who said, comparison is the thief of joy?
That's a great quote. It was probably her when she was
You
when she
never
had
know with quotes. You can
when
just
she
make up anyone.
yeah,
You can say,
you,
you
you
know,
could say
Genghis Khan used to say
yeah,
famously.
yeah. Genghis Khan said, "Don't believe everything you hear on the internet," and then he cut someone's head off. But yeah,
Do you
it's
believe that he drank horse's blood?
is
Do
that a
you
thing?
believe that Genghis Khan, when he was riding on horses, that when he was thirsty, he would cut the vein in the horse's neck and drink the blood? That's
Well,
something I learned growing up.
look, there are humans here in 2023 who drink Schlitz and Bush Light, so I'm willing to believe that Genghis Khan drank blood.
Yo, I met someone who said they were a cannibal, and I couldn't tell if it was a bit or not.
Where was this?
I feel like I got to give the least amount of details possible. But
Yeah,
I met this guy, and he was like, "Yeah, I was dating this girl for some time who was a cannibal, and I like tried human once." And I was like, "I'm just gonna get out of this
I
conversation."
need I need to leave this meat locker right now.
So he might have drank blood. I answered my own question right there.
Yeah, this girl, she's probably a fan of Army Hammer. It sounds like
She was the biggest fan.
she was a big Army Hammer stan. She was part of the Army Hammer Blood Army. You know,
I would love the maybe she was just like a dumb, like kind of dumb, and they're just selling her steak,
right?
making her pay like 4 times the price,
She
and
thought
they're
she was
like,
eating. She thought she was eating human Wago beef of dissident North Koreans who end up in camps. Oh, I mean, there's some dark shit out there. I mean, when we think of cannibalism, we think of the most cartoonish, outlandish example like Jeffrey Dahmer.
Mhm.
That's like what's in the public consciousness of it. Whereas the reality of it is probably, you know, like I don't know. I don't even know. I don't even know what it would be. You running into
I started us on a bad tangent. I apologize.
yeah,
That's the one rule of podcasting. Never talk about cannibalism. Genghis Khan did say that.
hey. Yeah, he said that while he was at Jeffrey Epstein's island. Um, yeah, I mean, we know, the elites, they're into some weird stuff, and
Yeah.
a lot of the stuff they put out there, the imagery is promoting that kind of stuff. I
What do
mean,
you think is at the top? Like, what do
well,
you think runs everything?
I think it's probably more of a mindset and a spiritual capture that runs that. because when you've gotten everything in the material world and you've conquered all the wealth, all the toys, just the ability to travel freely on private jets, you're operating in a different stream from the rest of humanity. So I think possibly you get addicted to the pursuit of going to the next step. So I think really what the top of that is something that's very lonely and isolating, where you're just in this cycle of constantly chasing the next level, and then you realize there is no next level. It's just here you
Yeah,
are. You have to
yeah.
face yourself. But like, do you mean like like a conniving cabal of like Satanists and that sort of thing?
I don't know. I'm always like, do you think there's like a room of people deciding what is happening with what is going? Like, do you believe in like an Illuminati type group that runs everything?
Well, yeah. I mean, I point people towards the Bilderberg Group. They meet every year. They just met, I think, in Spain recently, and that's a very real thing. That's it. That they're open about who they are. They're captains of industry, telecom, banking, defense, oil, energy, tech, and certainly they get together off the record in a big confab that's guarded by secret police, secret service, private security, and they're able to speak off the record with each other. Um, I don't think that it's like just specifically a group of people all the time in a room. Whereas it's kind of, I look at the world as kind of like competing cartels and gangsters that sometimes align on goals and ends, and they'll sometimes occasionally team up to meet those ends. But then the next
Mm,
week, if something else that they're going for runs counter to that people they just teamed up with, they'll be at war with them again. And then their vessels are the media, politicians, industries, um, the entertainment world. I mean, when you think about a movie that gets funded for like $250 million, clearly that has an agenda. That movie,
mhm.
like, you think about like The Hurt Locker or Zero Dark 30. Um, those are movies that are made and funded with an agenda in mind. They're serving some kind of agenda and a purpose. So there are people who can pull those levels of power and influence and make things happen and move things and be movers and shakers. That's absolutely truth and reality. But this like cartoonish idea of like people in a boardroom, like dark, and it's the Illuminati and all this, I think a lot of that is kind of largely um, put out there to throw people off.
Yeah, I think
What do
the
you think?
cartel thing that you were talking about is true. When you think about America, it's just the most successful business. Like, or China. China's actually the most successful business that's ever been run. Like,
Yeah.
countries are just businesses, which are
Mhm.
really just gangs. Like that's if you
Yeah,
want to like what that famous quote from Scarface, everything relates back to drug dealing. Like it
yeah,
really does. Like that's the simplest form of making money because it's untaxed income. And when you go that all the way to the
dude.
top, it's the true. There's the kingpins, and that just trickles down.
Let me do a little Jesse Ventura for you. Let me tell you something, Sam. You know what CIA stands for?
What does that say? CIA stand for, Jesse?
Get a load of this one, Sam. This will blow your mind. CIA stand. Let it be known that the 38th governor of Minnesota is telling you that CIA stands for Cocaine Import Agency. Dude, it's so funny you mentioned that, man. I just watched a classic 1993 Mike Wallace 60 Minutes when they actually had some balls and some teeth and they would do real investigative journalism. They uncovered a CIA smuggling operation between out of Venezuela, and the CIA smuggled 1 ton of cocaine out of Venezuela in to America, into the American markets, and it was part of an operation to get their people embedded with cartel. I mean, that's at least what the story was, the cover story they told.
Yeah,
And Mike Wallace interviewed at the time in '93 the current head of the DEA, the actual head of the whole agency, and he was like, "We had no idea about this. We've been investigating the DIA was investigating the CIA for like over a year to figure out what they were up to, and this is proven, undisputed, documented fact, at least in this instance, that the CIA smuggled in a ton of cocaine into the United States, and those are done to fund black operations because the CIA can't like just go to Congress and say, "Hey, we need $100 million to go into this third world country, overthrow their government, train up a right wing paramilitary force to be involved in that coup, and then we're going to install our guy in power. We're going to keep him in power, and then we're going to fund his drug smuggling operations to keep our operations going throughout the world." They can't do that. So they have to be involved in drug smuggling and illicit arms deals. I mean, that's all very real stuff, documented
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Should we? This is should we care about that as people? You know, like it's like aliens. I'm like, how is my day to day life really going to change if an alien lands in like
Yeah. I think the
DC
alien
right now?
I think the alien thing's largely a psyop. I mean, I don't. I think that's technology that man has created, but it's 30, 40 years ahead of what normies are allowed to see and know about.
Mm.
So they make movies like Independence Day, and they get the dude from Blink 182. The dude who's obsessed with. It's like, yeah, he's that guy's going to be the one who leads disclosure about aliens. The dude from Blink 182.
Yeah,
You know,
it's so true.
what's his name? The Angels and Airwaves guy.
uh,
Um,
DeLong, not DeLong, is
yeah,
it?
is it Tom DeLonge? Or there's Travis
Mm.
Barker, Tom DeLonge, and then uh, Mark Hoppus. Yeah, it's Travis Barker. Yeah,
I think it's Tom DeLonge who's the guy
you're
who's
right.
obsessed with
It's
the
Tom DeLonge,
aliens.
but
That's how I
he's
know Blink 182 might be my least favorite band of all
yeah.
time.
I got some friends who love them and went to their show recently, so I'm like really happy for them. But yeah, I'm not. I like their music from the American Pie soundtrack. Um, but should we care about I mean, that's the thing. So that's what's so amazing about it. When you hear about poor street level people getting pinched and going away for 20 and 30 years for a bag of coke or weed, you're like, the injustice of this when it's our own government, our own intelligence agencies that are involved in the scheme to get it in here to our country, to make sure that supply chain is protected and guaranteed, and then it floods our streets and people become addicted and it ruins families and people's lives. So that's what I care about. I care about educating people on that and exposing that.
I do agree with that, but don't you think that that will happen no matter who's in charge? Is because you're saying if you're getting to the top, you're going to want that next step because that's the type of person you are. And
Right.
it's like working at a business that like living in America is like working at a business that you know what little like side steps you can do to make your job easier. But if
Yeah.
you get caught at that job, you're going to get fired.
Right. Right.
And it's like, I don't know. I lost my tangent on there. I
No,
used to,
I think what you were saying is like, what the hell are we going to do about it? Right. Basically.
well, it's not even that. It's just, okay, how do I think myself as a person can help the most people? I think telling jokes, comedy, and podcasting is what I think I was put here for. So that's how I'm going to help the most people. So I'm going to focus all my time and energy into that to try to help the most amount of people. I turn my microphone off. I think that is what people should do is figure out how they can help the most amount of people doing what they want to do. Because I had a friend say this to me, like, ignorance is the same thing as knowing of what you're ignorant about and not doing anything about it.
Yeah. Willful ignorance.
Exactly. So I think, yes, you shouldn't just ignore it. But I also think if you focus and study, like I used to be so into reading about everything, like how the government was fucking us over, everything. I'd spend all my time. And then it would just make me so anxious that I wouldn't be working on the thing that actually would help me get information out there in the best possible way.
It was ruining your good time.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, that's why you have to walk the fine line between being black pilled and honk pilled, and it's very easy to get down about the stuff. My brother and I have done since high school 20 years of very deep research and reading and investigation into all the stuff that we're talking about right now: drug
Yeah.
smuggling, human trafficking, um, the war machine, the assassinations of the 60s, the September 11th, the Iraq War. The gateway into that was I was a child of the Iraq War generation. I was in high school when 9/11 happened in 2001. I was a freshman, and then the drumbeat for war with Iraq was like almost instantaneous. And so I was like looking around, like, who the hell are these people that are pushing for this war with Iraq, with a country that didn't attack us? They weren't involved in the 9/11 attacks. In fact, Saddam Hussein and Al Qaeda and Bin Laden hate each other. They're of opposing gangster factions. Um, and I'm starting to see my peers and people in my community, guys my age, a year or two older than me, running to sign up to go into this meat grinder 8,000 miles away and kill people that they never otherwise would even known existed in a country they couldn't find on a map the week before. So that's like always been my mindset with stuff. So
Mhm.
I do want to know. I want to know about the dark shit and I want to be educated on it. But you're absolutely right, Sam. If you just do it all the time and you dwell on it, you can be blackpilled and you can be miserable.
But you also created an outlet for that, which I think is good. Like if that's how, like if this is how you and your brother are the best way to reach people, then all that knowledge and learning is important. It's so funny how different people like, you know, what we were talking about this with what you like as a child or what's influential to you as a child. Like you really don't get to pick what your interests are. And that's why it's so funny. If you're religious or if you're atheist, it's the exact same thing. You're like, well, my what I like came from a place of unknown, and that's fine. Like it doesn't
Right.
matter. Like not an unknown, but who I am was decided either by the universe or by a higher power or by like the circumstances I came into, and that describes what you enjoy, and that then leads to you thinking everyone was that way, you know?
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, absolutely. It's the environment you come up where you come up, who's around you, who are the voices around you, what are they talking about? You're influenced by your family, by your peers, by the
Was your
community.
family politically active?
So no, my mom is from Cambridge and Somerville originally, and she, you know, grew up around like probably a traditional liberal Democratic Massachusetts family, Catholic, blue collar, but she was not like a political person. And then my dad was originally from Newfoundland, Canada, up near where the Titanic sank. Titanic sank off the coast of Newfoundland, and he immigrated to America when he was 10, and he just was a resident alien his whole life. He never actually became a citizen, so he couldn't vote. Of course, they took plenty of taxes out of him, while he was
Yeah.
alive. But they were my dad was like very aware of things that were going on, and a lot of what kind of got us into the political world and investigating stuff was my dad and his brothers. My dad has five brothers who are all still around, so I grew up with these like five amazing, epic, like blue collar, self-employed contractors, like businessmen, salesmen kind of dudes, but who are also very well read on like the war machine and like esoteric stuff, conspiracy stuff. Like my dad had David Icke's books on his nightstand when I was. Are you familiar with David Icke?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, the Lizard Man, mate. It's a lizard, mate.
uh-huh.
So like I'm a 12-year-old kid and my dad's reading David Icke's and The Truth Will Set You Free. So I'm like, what's my dad reading? So that kind of informed a lot of our thinking at that age. And then of course you evolve over time and you kind of find your own voice and your own footing. But that's kind of a big part of the environment that my brother and I came up in.
That makes sense. And that's why like I think null my point before about like do we really care about it, because it of course you should care about it. That's what you came up in. It's like you don't give a fuck about rap music, not pardon my love, but like not that I care about that, but it's like why would you? Why would you know any of the rappers I talked to? Why you didn't grow up with that? You didn't learn that growing up. Like,
Right. But also I see my friend and I say this about people. So they're into something that you might not necessarily be into or know a lot about, you say, "Well, that's their art and it's beautiful and it brings
oh,
them joy."
one
And I love it. So
the
that
hard work. If I see hard work, I enjoy it. And I
yeah,
do enjoy the politics thing, just is so like you do have to have 20 years of knowledge. It's like you're not going to be a professional guitar player with 2 years
No,
playing guitar, you know? And you
right.
having knowledge since being a child. All right, so the lizard, the David Icke, the lizard people thing. When did that like leave your mind? Like, or do you believe in something like that in a way?
Well, I believe in the fearless questioning of authority, the challenging of institutions that preceded us, that have always been here, and saying, why the hell does Homeland Security exist? Why does the crown and the monarchy exist? And why are these people that why should I care about these people? They're a bunch
Yeah.
of inbred, privileged assholes, but like our whole life, we have them beamed at us into our face and we're supposed to show deference to them. So I think this renegade attitude and spirit is something that's always informed my worldview and how I
Hmm.
research things and look at things. So yeah, I don't I don't necessarily believe that there's friggin' 10, 12 feet tall shape shifting lizards amongst us, but I do believe that there is good and evil in the world.
Yeah. I think I
And
got ruined to the. Sorry, what were you saying? I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, no, go ahead.
I was saying that I think I got ruined to this belief. I think talking to you especially, I see like my mindset on it, and so I was very privileged. I got a full ride to a boarding school when I was in high school. It was $89,000 a year for high school, and I
Whoa,
got full tuition. They gave me the whole thing.
where the hell was
So
this?
in the middle of nowhere, bumfuck Massachusetts. This is where like kings and princes went, and
Ah,
like
okay.
and the titans of industry. This is where their kids went, and I'm there, a day student from Fitchburg, Massachusetts, like being like I'm here free, and all these people are the wealthiest kids, and and I see like, oh, their parents are the ones who are actually running this shit, and these kids are like doofuses. These kids are
Yeah. Oh,
like
they're clowns.
privileged doofuses, and then I
Yeah.
go and I meet like the people in the industry that I know, and I'm like, oh, they're just like, it ruined me to that because I was like, oh, this is these kids' parents are running shit. I don't want to know nothing about them, and I think that made me kind of turned off from the whole thing.
Yeah. No, I can. Wow, that's fascinating, dude. And I completely can understand that. I think what has kept me so compelled and involved in politics is that I think just early out in the gate, I viewed myself and my ethos as that archetype as someone who could get within the system, but be a rogue and be a maverick within the system and push it just as far as they could without it ending in disaster. So
Yeah,
I,
but
I
you
think
got the RFK Jr.
well,
like,
that's exactly it, man, and that's kind of been wild for me, man, becoming buddies with him and having him on my show. I got JFK here behind me. It's one of my favorite pictures of Kennedy out in the water. So I did. I grew up idolizing the Kennedys. I'm from Massachusetts originally. My dad talked about them, and it was always like just never accepted that they were just killed by one guy randomly. So I was fascinated at power structures and the psychology of power and how it worked and how people could be manipulated and propagandized. Um, but I think I've just always viewed my pursuit in politics as someone who has knowledge and can gain and has just the same amount of knowledge, if not more, than the people who are in the belly of the beast.
yeah.
And I view it like, well, if I was in there, this is what I would do with it, or this is how I would help people, or I would vote against all these wars. I would vote against the funding of these wars, because there have been people who've got in there to the highest levels of power and have done the right thing. So I'm always fascinated by those figures.
Do you have someone that you look up to the most in politics?
Well, it's always been JFK and RFK, and then Ron Paul. I got his sign back here. Um, Dennis Kucinich, who was managing RFK Jr.'s campaign, and then of course Tulsi Gabbard. But it's like as far as like my childhood, it was really like the Kennedys and Jesse Ventura. Always fascinated and in awe of Jesse Ventura. That guy is a Renaissance man. You want to you
Yeah.
want to talk about a guy who's lived a million lives, dude.
I
And
read his book on marijuana once because I thought it'd be hilarious. It's like he has lived a million lives. Like, why
yeah.
the fuck is he writing this book?
Well, isn't it cool, Sam, to think about a guy like that, a former fucking member of a biker gang, a Navy SEAL, a wrestler, then becomes the chief executive of Minnesota. Dude, that's fucking wild.
Yeah,
It's crazy. So those are like the figures that I gravitate towards in politics.
but that is cool, and that's what proves to me. It's like if he did it, anyone can do it. There's not like a there
Yeah.
probably is a grand scheme of things. You are right on that, but
Well,
there isn't
occasion
in the way that Jesse Ventura can become, like work in politics.
Yeah, well, part of that is there, but if an outlier like him, if someone who's a real renegade, who really is heterodox, against all odds, actually got in there and became a powerful governor for 4 years, it's inspiring. And those kind
Would
of
you
things.
ever would you ever try out to be in politics, or do you like being the media side of it?
Well, so
Or would you run for?
I ran for state rep here in New Hampshire in 2012, and I lost by 69 votes, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
And
That is crazy.
the deal with that was I just at that time I bit off way more than I could chew. I
Hmm.
was about 25, 26 years old. I was doing grad school, working full time, working two jobs, um, doing politics, and I was really spread thin. And it really would have, I think it would have been a disaster if I had gotten elected because I just don't think I would have had the time to do it. But I went for it because I wanted the glory and I wanted to get my name in the mix and I wanted to get that experience of being the candidate. And it was cool, man. I learned a lot and I met a lot of cool people who I'm still in touch with. Um, but as far as like ever running for office again, personally, obviously I won't. I'll leave that door open.
Yeah.
Um, but just the way that social media is now, and how much of a meat grinder it is, it's less appetizing than it was for me in 2012. Certainly,
Oh, yeah. Because you really will get wrong, though. You'll be brought through the ringer.
they will go and talk to my kindergarten classmates. They'll track them down, and they'll find a picture of me, dressed as a scarecrow from the Wizard of Oz, and some group will get mad about it, and I'll be
Oh,
canceled.
you want to know what a group will really? You want to know why I can never care about politics and why I can never run? And this is because when I was in fourth grade, my family dressed me up as Robert E. Lee.
Ooh, oh, there you go.
and took pictures of me. I don't know where those pictures are. Someone's sitting on a picture of fourth grade me dressed it. My grandfather was named after Robert E. Lee. He
Hey, man,
probably
that's
Robert E.
that's
Lee's probably
heritage.
looking up from hell, being like, he's talking to who?
Right. No, we know this is Alex Jones. We know who's got those pictures. They got him in the safe. It's the person who's controlling Sam Buck, folks. He's blackmailing Sam Buck. He's controlling his career. I have the documents. I got the Robert E. Lee photos, and we'll be back at the top of the hour at InfoWars.
But that's some serious. I literally like that is a picture that when I'm like, oof.
Ooh,
No one
yeah.
wants to be dressed up as Robert E.
No.
Lee.
Hey, man, that was against your will, so you get a pass on that one.
All right, I will.
You get a
Yeah.
pass on that one. I just, I think about the shit that we were allowed to say and experience and do as kids. I was born in '86, so I came of age in the '90s, grew up in the '90s. No social media, no like a constant camera in your face all the time. The chance of being recorded and at every step, we were allowed to make mistakes and grow up. So
Hmm.
the TikTok generation now with kids, man, you're monitored and surveilled around the clock and everything's filmed and it's horrible.
How do you feel? I'm not going to talk about guns because I don't really have an opinion on them. I is like everyone thinks like if everyone has a
Hey,
gun,
you
everyone's
can.
safer.
You can say whatever
Everyone,
you want about guns, man. Yeah.
oh, totally. But I just mean like I'm not. You do what you want. I don't really care. But the grander point is people saying if everyone has a gun, then everyone's safer. Is I don't know how I feel about that with guns, but how do you feel about that with social media? If everything's being filmed, if everyone's being recorded all the time, does that make everyone safer in the end because there's so much data out there that we're not really, or is it
No,
the other
I think
way?
it's I think it's awful. It's the illusion of safety. It's like the kabuki theater of the TSA when grandma has to take her shoes off and get patted down by a TSA agent at the airport. We have a Fourth Amendment for a reason here in our republic, in our Constitution, and I think it's awful. I think it's pushing us further and further into the merger of tech with organic and bio life, and pushing us
And you're
towards.
against that?
I'm weary of it. I'm weary of it. I'm weary at the speed and the proliferation of it, and how fast it's happening, and how I'm seeing things for me as a child that were organic experiences had in person with people, out outside, out in nature, face to face, now becoming screens. Everyone's on a screen, and your whole, the COVID thing. I call COVID the flu world order, because that was an insane merger of surveillance with medical tyranny, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Um, in your medical business, and getting forced to take this thing, and all that. That's a whole other conversation. But what makes me weary and afraid is privacy, loss of privacy, and loss of sovereignty, and body autonomy, and the fact that so many people were just so conditioned and okay to go along with it, and not even bring their head up for air and question it.
Yeah.
It frightened me, man. So, I mean, there's not much I can personally do to stop AI, and where it's going, but I can personally live my life in a way that represents values I have, where I put my value in being with people face to face, having real experiences. And look, I'm guilty of being like this and on my phone, and being on Instagram. I'm addicted to the gram. I do it all for the gram. Um,
We're doing this on a computer,
well,
talking
that's
through screen.
that's
Yeah.
an excellent point, and that's exactly what I was going to say. So, like, on the flip side of that, there are great things about it, but I think we have to have it in check. We can't let it put us in check. We have to put it in check.
I agree with that. I also think that I'm using these terms colloquially, but I think we're the monkeys looking at the humans going, fuck them, you know? Like, we're the monkeys looking at, like, that's what AI is. That's the next evolutionary form of us,
Yeah.
is artificial. And so we're the monkeys looking at them, be look at these idiots. What are they do? They're ruining everything. But really we're the outdated model, you know?
Yeah. Or we're propagandized to believe we're the outdated model,
Hmm.
which could be true, because there's an app for that. Do you have that app on your phone? It's like, fuck off. I don't have that app. You know,
And
I'm a
I
human
try,
being. I have a heart here in my chest that beats organically. I have blood flowing through my body. I'm made of mostly water. I'm not a fucking app, you know?
but if your heart fails, you could get a fake heart, which then makes you part technology. You
They
are
got an
then
they got an app for that. Yeah, you turn into a cyborg like Dick Cheney.
You are like literally though, like people don't realize they're cyborgs. You got a new knee, you're a cyborg. Like
That's a good point. Yeah, look, no, man, I'm not
my
totally.
shit's all I'm so dumb that I can kind of make shit sound right, but I'm probably just uninformed on everything. I
Ah,
hope
dude,
people listening to
dude.
this podcast realize that I'm just like the ignorance that maybe if you're dumb enough you might agree with what I'm saying, but I also am just talking out my ass, you know?
Dude, we're just two guys. Heat with Pacino and. Now that I've met you like this, and I got to take you down, I'm not gonna like it. I just watched. I had to watch Heat again the other night. It's like
Mm.
it's in the top 5 in Netflix right now. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. Um, but we're just two guys talking, Sam, through this medium. Yeah, look, no, there's a lot of great things about it, but I don't know, it just freaks me out, dude, because I remember a time where we weren't on this grid. We weren't attached to some screen, and we didn't have instant access to everybody all the time. So a lot of the mystery and beauty of life to me has evaporated. Like,
Hmm.
you run into someone and you've been friends on Facebook with them for since you graduated high school. So I graduated high school in '05. So that was, Jesus, was that 18 years ago? God. Um, and I might not have seen I might run into that person at the store or somewhere, but I already know what they've been up to. I've seen the trips they've taken. I've seen where their wedding was. I've saw that they got divorced. Like, all of that shit is now like, all that. So it just, I don't know, man. It's kind of like remove the mystery of life. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense
I
or not.
do know what you mean, but okay, let's think about like if the AI isn't next and we are humans and we are going to evolve as we are, then wouldn't knowing more about people make our brains evolve more onto bigger topics?
Yeah, you'd
But
like to.
also not. I don't think that's true because I think when we meet each other, we revert even to smaller small talk because we already know everything. But I think evolutionarily, we should be like, well, I already know you got divorced, so let's talk about how to fucking solve world hunger, you know? But
let's
that's
let's
not
talk about the
really what.
let's talk about the Federal Reserve and the Pentagon.
Yeah, yeah. I already knew your baby daddy cheated on you 4 times. Let's talk about how to, let's talk about
Yeah.
what the S&P 500 is. You know, like
Hey, yeah, yeah. Well, we're doing mushrooms there with that guy.
exactly.
That's wild, man. That's awesome. I did mushrooms recently, actually. I do them probably every 2 to 3 years, and it's like good for realignment for me.
Yeah.
You know.
I went to see. I took them too much. I went to see Cocaine Bear on mushrooms.
Oh,
It turned to such a bad trip that I think I'm done with them. I've done them over 100 times. Maybe not that many, but I've done it a lot of times. But watching Cocaine Bear in the movie theater on mushrooms, there was kids acting like assholes. It was
that's
just like,
that's
I think I'm never doing it again.
that's a lot, Sam. I don't think I don't think I
You
could.
know what's a lot? Wait, I wasn't. I was debating on telling you this story on the podcast, but did you ever know? I won't give. I'll give the least amount of details possible. But the craziest night of my life happened the night we met.
No shit.
Yeah,
I,
someone at that show stole my phone.
okay, yes, I do. I do know some details about this, but please fill in.
I'm
You
not.
got,
I'm going to give the least amount of details to get people in trouble, but I need people to know how crazy this story is.
okay.
We did a show, and it went. People enjoyed it so much that a guy took my phone, so he had to see me again.
Did he, it wasn't an accident.
I thought it was. That's why I went to go see him. So I went to go pick up my phone from this guy, and he was in a dark alley. Imagine this. All right, just imagine people listening. I'm a comedian. I have a good show. A guy accidentally takes my phone. I'm a little weirded out, whatever. He gives me an address. So I pull up to that address to pick up my phone. That address is a dark alley. I
Jeez.
I call. I'm like, yo, if I have another phone, my friend's phone, I'm like, yo, I'm at the address, but it's a dark alley. I'm not pulling into a dark alley. They're like, pull into the dark alley. I'm like, I'm not pulling into this dark alley. You come to the street. So then this is abandoned. This is like a dead street. No one's on them.
This is
Abandoned
off of
alley.
Elm in Manchester, right?
Don't give the details on this one. The dude comes up to my car with an M16 and puts it in the window on me and my friend in the car. And he goes, "What the
Jeez.
fuck are you doing here? You're here to set me up? You're here to kill me?" And I'm like, "No, you have my phone." And then he starts sobbing. And he's like, I thought you were here to set me up." And then he starts pulling out This is like a fucking Ari Aster movie. He starts pulling out phones. He has like 6 phones. He finally gives me my phone, sobbing with a gun on us. And I'm like, bro, I just had a good. You just like, what the fuck is happening?
Wow.
And that's how that night ended.
Oh my God, man.
I got my phone back, but yeah, I've had guns pulled on me. I've never had someone pull a gun on me while they were sobbing. That they pulled a gun on me.
Boy, that is Ari Aster territory for sure.
I was watching Beau is Afraid recently, and I was like, damn, that night was that movie right there.
Oh fuck, man. So you're going to associate that with me for the rest of our friendship?
No, I'm on the
God damn
podcast. I'm on the podcast. We're having a good time. Hey, I'm a comedian. Life is supposed to be crazy. Like
Life's a
if you're a
fucking gas.
comedian, life's supposed to wild shit's supposed to happen. That's like
What a gas. Oh Jesus, man. I'm sorry that happened.
I thought it
That's
was. I mean, hey,
that's scary.
water under the bridge, but
Yeah,
isn't that a crazy end to that night?
that's nuts. Yeah,
It
that's
was.
that's
Wasn't it Christmas Eve? Eve?
it was right before Christmas. It was the showcase Geneva
And
put on, and
Yeah,
Yeah.
last thing is look at the shirt I'm wearing. Like I'm wearing a shirt with wrappers with guns on them, whatever. That night I was wearing Vineyard Vines. I'm like, of course the one night I wear a collared shirt is when I get guns pulled on me. Like
You're the
I'm with fucking gangs all the time. Like literally,
oh
like
man.
I can't say which gangs because then the other gangs will get mad at me. But
Yeah,
like
no, no, we're not. No, we're not going to
I've
do
been
any.
in real gang situations.
We're not going
And
to
that
do any
shit is
Takashi. There's no Takashi in here.
that shit has never happened. But the second I wear a Vineyard Vine, someone pulls a gun on me after a comedy show.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah, guns, man. I look, I fucking hate guns. Like personally, I don't own them. I don't like being around them. Um, my I had a fucking nutbag neighbor here discharge his gun into my apartment.
Jesus
Fi
Christ.
Fired into my apartment, dude. And thank God my brother and I were not home. But whew, we got home, man.
Why?
He claimed he didn't know it was loaded and he was cleaning it and it went off accidentally. And I was just like, oh, I was like, dude, that is
Not gonna lie, he
fucked.
probably tried to shoot himself and missed. I'm guessing that's
I don't know what happened, but that was scary, man. And I was really, really freaked out for a while after that. Like I had to go stay in a hotel for a couple nights afterwards because the bullet went through my bathroom and shattered a mirror, and then there was plaster and
Jesus
mirror and
Christ.
glass all over. If my brother and I had been home taking a dump or pissing in the bathroom, we would have been killed. We would have
That's
been killed.
horrible.
Yeah. But look, I understand a gun is a tool. It's a tool. Just a faster way of throwing a rock at somebody. And
Hmm.
I understand self defense and I understand all of that, but like gun culture and being obsessed with them and constantly talking about them and having to show yourself with all these guns, it's just I'm not into it, man. I've never been into it. I think it's a consciousness thing, and I like the peace of mind that I have not being around them. Now I can understand someone on the other end of that saying, "Well, I have peace of mind being around them and having them on my person and being into guns and all that." So, look, I'm not judgy, and I just say, "Hey, man, that's their art." Um, but yeah, dude, it's they're here. The genie's out of the bottle. They exist, and they're here. There's more of them than there are
Especially where
people.
we are in the Northeast, New Hampshire,
Oh,
like
live free or die, baby. Live free or
the
die.
more north you go, the more southern it gets. You know, like
That's
you
great.
hit some places in Maine, and you're like, why is there a Confederate flag up right now? Like,
Right. Well, they got your Robert E. Lee pictures. That's why.
those are just big bucked up fans.
They're fans of the yeah. They're your Confederate
Podcast.
fans. Yeah, and look, a lot of my friends are libertarians, and a large part of my audience are libertarians, and I'm with them on like 70% of the issues. But I'm just, I've just never been a big gun guy. I've shot them
Yeah.
before. I have friends who have enough guns to form fucking small armies. Now look, if the shit does hit the fan, I'm going right to those guys to form our own little militia,
Oh,
and
one
we're gonna
hundred
we're
percent.
gonna we're gonna build wall. We're gonna have guns. We're gonna have barbed wire. We're gonna have everything. We're gonna have tactical landmines strewn across the land. Um, but yeah, man, I know it's an emotional issue. It's definitely an
Yeah.
emotion. It's an emotionally charged issue, and I get that.
If your libertarian fans don't like me, just know that Gary Johnson used a picture of me in his campaign.
That's fucking awesome, dude.
There's a picture of me and Gary Johnson. I'm so high. I'm so stoned. And I have a Joe Rogan t shirt on. And
Yes,
someone caught us taking the picture and he used it in his campaign. Like he pushed it.
that's
And it was
amazing.
like, look at how nice Gary Johnson is to his fans and stuff. And it was all over Facebook. It was all over Instagram. I went to the like most liberal college in the whole world, and I'm pretty liberal now. Like, but
Yeah,
people would be like, "Look at this piece of shit on the he's the Gary Johnson campaign trail." I'm like,
awesome.
God damn it.
Was that in the 2016 or 2012 cycle?
2016.
Okay, so I worked on Gary's campaign in 2012.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're buddies. Yeah, he's a good guy.
He is a good guy. I just think that's so. If you like, someday there will come out and someone will find that picture
Oh,
of just
I
me
got to
and
see this
Gary.
now. Yeah, I probably saw it, and if I see it again, I'll be like, "Hey, that's Sam. All right,
Yeah, I
let's
remember a bunch
go."
of people being like, "Does that kid have a Joe Rogan T-shirt on right now?"
That's so on brand. That's on brand, though. Well,
It really is. I
to
did
me,
DMT and started my podcast. I'm a
that's
Joe Rogan clone.
dude, you're right there. That to me, Gary Johnson's kind of like one of those outliers in politics. He wasn't like a connected dude. He wasn't part of like a political family or a dynasty. He started his own construction company, made his own money, he's funded his own campaign, and then he got in there and he was, he shook some shit up.
Yeah.
So I always liked that about him.
I voted for him. I voted
I did
for him.
too.
Like I
Yeah,
wasn't gonna vote for someone that I didn't support. I don't know
yeah,
if my mind has changed on that now for the next cycle. I don't know who I'm gonna vote for yet, but in 2016, I wasn't going to vote for either of the two major candidates, so I voted for Gary Johnson, and I also did my research on him.
yeah. Oh, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, that's where I was. I worked for him in 12, and then he dropped out before the New Hampshire primary really even happened, and that's when the five of us Gary Johnson New Hampshire staffers endorsed Ron Paul, and then I worked on Ron Paul's campaign. Um, and then in 2016, when Gary ran again, um, I voted for actually. So in 2012, he was a Libertarian nominee. So I voted for him in 12 and in 2016 in the general
Mm.
elections. So yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that was
he's
my first time voting. That was in
nice.
2016 was my first time voting because I had just become of age.
What a
So I
ride.
wanted to make it count. I'm
Yeah,
25. I'm 25, so it was like
yeah, 25. Wow. So 1998. You were born in 98. That's quick.
97,
Oh,
97.
I just did quick math.
I'm turning 26 in July, so pretty soon.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, 97. I was in fourth grade, coming up in the world, man. Being out in these streets here in Jaffrey Ridge, New Hampshire,
Is this the mean streets?
the mean streets of SAU District 47, Jaffrey Ridge, New Hampshire. God, that's wild, man. Yeah, it's amazing the experiences we have and the people we meet and the rooms you end up in. Before we were rolling, we were talking about just getting into the room, knowing that you probably shouldn't be in that room, but once you get in there, you act like you're there, you belong
I
there.
think one final point to that is you got to be in rooms that you know you're supposed to, the other people don't yet. You shouldn't be in rooms
Well
that
said.
you know you're not supposed to be in.
Well said.
If you're in a room that you feel uncomfortable in
Oh
and you're like,
yeah,
I shouldn't be here, don't be in that room. But
that's the Jeffrey Epstein cannibal room.
if you're on a private jet and you're going to a secret island and you don't know what's there, don't be on that private
Right, and
jet.
Bill Clinton comes out with flour all over his face. Hey guys, we're going on a vacation.
Grab a parachute and
Oh, get
hopefully
off.
you land on Fiji.
Harrison Ford that shit. Air Force One that shit. That plane. So get off my plane.
Oh.
Oh man. Yeah, we were talking about cocaine and cocaine smuggling, man. Look into when Bill Clinton was governor of Arkansas, dude. He
Oh,
was
I know about in the 2016 years leading up to it, like 2014 to 2018. I was like, I would read everything. I was like I would just like, I learned everything, and that just you said black pilled. That was what you called it.
yeah,
It like black. I had never heard that, but that's what happened. I just was like,
yeah, yeah.
I learned too much. I learned too much. I'm done.
Oh,
Like
fire, fire
I'm
hose.
just gonna
Yeah,
be goofy. I'm
yeah.
gonna be goofy. I'm gonna tell my jokes. I'm gonna talk
Love
to the
that.
people I want to talk
It's
to.
awesome.
I'm gonna help as many people as I can with
Right.
my podcast. Like at the end of the day, my podcast is still a self-help podcast. I started talking to comedians about self-help, and that just happened to turn to rappers. And it's still, if you listen to it, it's me just talking about trying to better myself. Like,
Yeah, that's
and
beautiful.
that's how I think I can help people. And I just don't think me learning about politics would have helped anybody.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. Well, you're staying true to yourself and it's your passion and it's your vibe and you do it really well. It's really cool what you're doing. Have you met Mike Jones yet?
No, I have not met Mike Jones yet. I have so many mutual friends.
Because still to me is my favorite rap song.
Oh, 100%.
He's like full foes, I'm tipping, wood grain, I'm gripping, catch me laying, switch it with the paint dripping, turn your neck and Sam Buck is missing. You know,
You're a better rapper than I am. I couldn't even do that.
tipping on faux foes, wrapped in faux foes, packing fofos and I'm back in
You got to
fofos.
remake the music video, the
Yeah.
New Hampshire version of that music
Yeah,
video.
we should collab and do that. Blowing on that endo, GameCube, Nintendo, 5% tint, so you can't see up in $10 window.
So,
I can't believe I remember those words, dude. That song blew up when I was in like junior year, senior year of high school. Swisha House, Mike
yeah,
Jones, Slim Thug, and Paul Wall. It's
I
Paul
was just
Wall,
with
baby.
Paul Wall last week.
Oh, really?
So yeah, yeah.
It's Paul Wall, baby. What you know about me?
He's such a cool dude. He's a really nice dude. I enjoyed hanging out with him.
There was a math teacher in my high school that my sister had. His name was Mr. Wall, and all the girls called him Paul Wall.
He did have grills, but that was.
Yeah. Oh God, that's so good,
Do
dude.
you think a comedian could be taken seriously if he had grills and a chain?
Fuck yeah. Why not?
Yeah,
Why not?
I'm gonna do it.
I was
Get
gonna
some
say, Sam.
grills.
Yeah, you got to get up there and do that, man.
I'll
Yeah,
go. The grills. I already mumble enough.
yeah. The grill will just be a nice aesthetic. Yeah. No,
I'll
look,
sound
man.
like I'm auto tuned.
There's some rap that I really do like. Have you met Immortal Technique?
No, I have not. Not
So
yet.
my brother and
He's
I met him '08 or '09 because he was big into 9/11.
yeah, he
Obviously.
was like not the conspiracy rapper, but like
Well, he rapped, he'll rap, dude rapped about serious geopolitical shit and did it in such a
yeah.
brilliant way. Um, yeah, we were at the same event he was at and got to say hi to him. And I was like, what do I call him? Mr. Immortal or Mr. Technique? Like, dude, I was definitely
Hey.
intimidated. I was
Oh
intimidated.
yeah.
He was really nice though.
Everyone, yeah.
They're all really nice.
It's like if they say like don't meet your idols, it's like then pick better idols. I always say like why are
Yeah,
your idols shitty people? Why are
right.
your idols pieces of shit? Like
Yeah.
if your idols should be people you idolize, they should be good people, you
Should be
know?
people you would bring to a family Christmas party and you'd be proud of it.
Exactly.
Like,
Paul
dude,
Wall's coming to my Easter next year.
it's coming to the bucked up Easter. It's Paul Wall, baby. What you know about me? Yeah, I'd be like, Mom, this is Governor Jesse Ventura. He's going to be having Thanksgiving with us. Pass the turkey, please, Carol. Eric,
That would
Eric,
be
lay,
pretty.
Eric, lay off the gravy. That waistline's getting pretty big. That waistline's almost as big as the Gulf of Tonkin.
You should try to get that to happen. Get him out to Thanksgiving.
But yeah, when I met Jesse and sat down with him for my podcast, it lived up. He lived up to kind of everything, what I had built up in my head about him, and he was awesome. And after we were done and he was leaving, I kind of walked him out. I was like, Governor, man, I gotta tell you, I've looked up to you, and you're one of my biggest inspirations in politics. And we did this. I gave him a big bear hug, and he said I had a great time doing your podcast. You know, so
That's amazing. And that shows that
yeah,
he is a good person to look up to.
yeah, yeah, he is. So it's it's
Did he teach
important.
you any wrestling moves?
So I was in touch with his assistant before, like setting up the shoot and stuff. And I pitched an idea to do like a little skit where I'm doing my Ventura impression to somebody. And then they're trying to tell me, like, dude, don't do it anymore. He's right behind you. And I'll be like, oh, fuck. Jesse Ventura's right behind me, isn't he? So then I turn around and then Ventura, like, I would just have him body slam me or do like a funny fake wrestling move. But his assistant's like, it's a funny idea, but I don't think he's going to want to go for that. So
You should have brought it up on the podcast.
dude, so this was 2016. I was kind of a little more, what's the word, timid or not as secure. I mean, I was secure, but
Yeah.
I was too timid to do that. But now I would do that. I would just, but while we're rolling, I'd be like, let's do this right now. We don't need to plan it. Let's spontaneously do that. So that would be,
Legendary.
yeah, that would be funny. Well, awesome, Sam. Well, we're coming up on like an hour 15 here. So you're doing the Rogue Island. Let me get the
Yeah,
flyer.
I'm
Rogue
doing
Island
Rogue Island Comedy Festival
Comedy
in
Fest.
Newport, Rhode Island.
Okay, and you're performing on
I'm
Monday the
performing on
29th.
Monday. I'm on
Okay.
Monday the 29th. See me at Top of Pelham, part of the Rogue Island Comedy Festival. I also am headlining the legendary Nick's Comedy Stop September 1st and 2nd. So if any in Boston, Massachusetts. So if you're in Boston, that's where like Bill Burr started,
Yeah.
like legendary club. So I'm headlining that the 1st and 2nd of September.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Thank you very
First,
much. I really appreciate
let me
that.
look on my. I'm going to put that on my calendar right now, dude.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot.
That's
It's
that's
Memorial Day weekend, I think.
all right.
So
And you're doing Friday and Saturday?
yeah, I'm doing two shows, Friday and Saturday.
What time?
8 o'clock
Okay. And that's at Nick's.
at Nick's Comedy Stop in Boston.
That's right near
I always want to be
Chinatown, right?
like, yeah, I always want to be like, that's where Burr started. That's where Louis started. And I'm like, oh wait, that might turn some people off.
If it's Louis, bring
They're
your
not gonna like
raincoats.
my opening joke where I jerk off on the audience.
I'll bring my raincoat. I saw
Yeah, there's splash zone seats on the front
oh,
row.
incredible. Yeah, it's like SeaWorld. I saw Laura Server's headline there. I'm pretty sure it was Nick's.
Yeah, she's incredible. She's
Oh,
headlining Rogue Island Comedy Festival this
I,
weekend.
I love Laura, the Dorchester debutante.
Yeah, so
She's
if
a
you want to see her, she'll be performing at Rogue Island too.
That's awesome.
Same
Well,
with
before
Chris DiStefano,
yeah,
Mike Cannon,
dude,
Napoleon.
that's a banger.
Yeah, it's
There's
a, it's
there's some epic. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and there he is, Sam Buck.
and I wasn't even the smallest print. I didn't. I was just happy that
AJ
there's
Penny.
a little bit smaller print than me. That's all I cared about.
Dude, we talk about climbing that ladder in that pyramid. You're working your way up to the top. We're
Exactly.
going to the top with Hova.
Noah, they're gonna think this is an Illuminati podcast.
Yeah, yeah. Remember when Jim Carrey went on Kimmel? He's like, Jimmy, you don't know what that is.
That was such a funny clip.
I love Jim Carrey is a David Icke fan, which is not a surprise, obviously.
Not a surprise at
Not a
all.
surprise.
No.
Well, before we wrap, Sam, if you just want to tell everybody where to find you and how to support you, and if they want to book you, where do they go?
Yeah, sambuckcomedy.com or Bucked Up Podcast with Sam Buck. If you look that up really anywhere, Bucked Up Podcast, YouTube, Instagram, anywhere, I'll show up.
Awesome.
So yeah, check it out. I do 2 episodes a week. It's a great time if you want to hear me talk like I did today with rappers.
Yeah,
if you want to hear me unintelligibly shoot shit out my ass
no.
for an hour about topics I am not read up on, then listen to the Bucked
Sam,
Up Podcast.
This is one of the best convos I've had on here, dude, and like ever. I've so enjoyed this, man. I really appreciate you coming on.
Man, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this, and hopefully we do another show together soon.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to. And yeah, hang out with me after we end the live here.
All right, word.
I'll end it. So, everybody, thanks for tuning in. That's Sam Buck. He's one of the best comedians in the game right now. He's always on the grind. He's hustling. He's meeting everybody. He's doing really interesting podcasts. And he's here to help and to entertain and to inform. And that's kind of at the core of what we do at Jackman Radio. We're here to entertain. We're here to inform. We're here to have fun and just enjoy this short go around that we have here called life. So thanks again, Sam. And thank you to everybody listening. If you want to support this podcast, please become a patron at patreon.com/JackmanRadio. $10 a month. And that will keep us going and help us to continue to put together amazing projects and productions like the one we just did with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I hope everyone has a great day and a lovely weekend and be safe and take care of yourselves. We'll see you next time.